Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have John Phillips, co-founder of PredictIt, the stock market for politics. The traders are taking us all over the world today, doesn't it seem, John? And we'll start with what's happening with Boris Johnson. It's really interesting to see just how focused they are on this particular item.
It's so interesting. You know, people have made a career of underestimating Boris Johnson's ability to bounce back, but this is one for the history books, Jill. You know, the traders think there's only a 65% odds that Johnson will remain in office by the end of February. That's down from 90% odds that traders thought, and 65 for February and 50% odds that he'll be in office in May. And that's down 90% from 90% originally. The traders thought Boris would be in office and survive until May. So it's quite remarkable.
And domestically, predicted traders are also pricing in the passing of the reconciliation bill. And it looks as if there's some challenges, according to the predicted traders.
There sure is. And back to Johnson for just a minute. A counterbalance to his imminent demise is a sense that British voters and the political parties may not want to switch leadership while the Ukraine tensions are at a high. And there's in fact some accusations that the British government may have distributed this intelligence saying the Russians were planning effectively a coup in order to bolster Johnson's chances. Now that's not an infrequent accusation on something like this, is that a leader is using something for domestic political purposes of an international nature. But we'll see if Johnson survives. Yeah, reconciliation, boy. You know, it's only 23% odds that traders are giving that a reconciliation bill will pass, and the bill that they think will pass is going to be, I say, only $600 billion. But remember, this was originally a $3 to $4 trillion bill. So traders don't think it's going to pass. And if something does pass, traders think it's going to be less than $600 billion.
And John, to wrap up here, I think this is also probably one of the more interesting things that we've covered, where we have the CDC head and Fauci being priced in whether or not they will remain part of the core COVID-19 team. I'm sure they didn't think in 2019 that their positions would be as politicized as they have been, in fact, becoming, conservative targets in many cases.
Yeah, conservative and liberal targets, right? The criticism of Walensky, her recent comments, came from both the left and the right. And 76% of traders think by 76% odds that Walensky will remain in office through the end of the year. She, of course, is the head of the CDC. Fauci does almost exactly the same. Traders think with 75% odds, that means 3 out of 4, that Fauci will remain in office till the end of the year. It's hard to tell, of course, because different things could be, maybe different misstatements or just bad news on the COVID front, for which these two may be held accountable, rightly or wrongly. But right now, the odds are both about 75% that both are going to remain in office until the end of the year.
And John, in your career, has any national public health care leader, has it ever been politicized? Is this a position? And sometimes the Fed, we've been talking about the Fed becoming more politicized, more involved in social issues, and that certainly is a sign of the times. But when it comes to public health and safety, can you recall a time where it has been politicized on the right or left side of the aisle?
Sure. Well, you remember the Surgeon General's, first of all, nothing is quite like we see it today, but it is helpful. It's a great question, Joe. The Surgeon General has taken, previous Surgeon Generals have taken controversial stands on important public health issues. Smoking is an example of that. It was very controversial when the Surgeon General Koop said, came out with a very clear words on the unhealthy nature of smoking. It doesn't seem like a very controversial thing today, right? But that was met with a lot of criticism from tobacco state senators, for instance. So, there is a history of controversial statements by public health officials. It's kind of, some of these public health officials take their job very seriously in terms of leveling with the public or warning them of health hazards. I mean, you think about what might have gone differently had the American public been warned about opioids earlier than it was the case. I think you can go all the way back to seatbelts, perhaps, to look for controversial public health warnings. Now, the seatbelts, that was Ralph Nader in many ways with his book Unsafe at Any Speed. But the Senate hearings, and that was very controversial at the time. And of course, the automakers who had hired, private investigators to discredit Nader were themselves discredited and forced to testify. Same with this tobacco manufacturers. So, it's not a foregone conclusion how this is going to end, but boy, this pandemic seems to be going on forever.
Yeah, what are they calling it? 2022 TOO. So
yeah.
Sure, everyone's looking forward to move beyond this. But John, we appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Market Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Joe. All right.